Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us. We are live at BeyondX. It looks like we have a lot of people tuned in today, mostly from Asia. My name is Emmerich Lau, and I'm Senior Brand Consultant at Immortal, the branding and wayfinding arm of ONG&ONG, and we are based in Singapore. Our team has over 30 years of experience creating brands for practically every industry and manifesting these as integrated built environment experiences. A successful brand strategy positions clients for effective and successful marketing and communications, of which I believe AR experiences, which we are going to expand on more in this session, will become a growing component. Over to my co-moderator, Lit Hao.
Good afternoon. My name is Lit Hao. I'm the Director of Human Resource at ONG&ONG Group. And good afternoon also to our guests, Nelson and Albert, and thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Just some housekeeping, if I may. Quick reminder to all Zoom attendees, all our audience. Don't worry, your mic and your cameras are disabled per Zoom, per webinar protocol. If you'd like to make a comment, then please do. Click on the chat button at the bottom. And if you would like to ask some questions, please click on the Q&A button as well. Please do chat with us. The more you tell us about your thoughts and your opinions, the better we can couch the discussion later. The more questions that you have, the better we can also couch the Q&A experience later. So we want to make sure you have your take-homes. All your questions are answered. We've got an expert with us here today. Yeah. Back to you, Emmerich.
Okay, thanks, Lit Hao. Well, BeyondX is an annual design festival showcasing fresh technologies and inspire creativity and innovation, where we invite the most prestigious speakers in their field to share knowledge and developments with the world. Now, for this year, we have invited 10 speakers from diverse backgrounds to share their knowledge as we explore all the ways that smart technology and digitalization will inform the future of the AEC industry.
Okay, now we have a total of 8 sessions. This is the second day, actually. We are now at the second last session of day 2. This is a culmination of this year's BeyondX. We will have 2 sessions left. This is the penultimate one, and the last one will be at 3:30 later. So please stay with us and join us for the last one as we close BeyondX. But right now, I think back to business. Without further ado, please allow us to introduce our speakers for this afternoon, Mr. Nelson John and Mr. Albert Goh. Mr. Nelson John is a Senior Solutions Consultant for Digital Media at Adobe Southeast Asia. Nelson is a huge advocate for cloud technology and an expert in workflow digitization strategies. In the last 8 years, he has helped the organizations maximize benefits and ROIs of the Adobe document and Creative Cloud platforms. Mr. Albert Goh is a Senior Solutions Consultant for Digital Media at Adobe Southeast Asia. Albert has spent the last 5 years covering Adobe's Creative Cloud and document solutions in Southeast Asia. Through understanding the customer's creative marketing and document workflows, he has helped many realize the full potential of Adobe's range of digital media solutions.
And today they'll be taking us through session number 7, as Lit Hao has said, which is build, view, and share immersive AR experiences. Okay, so just do note that questions that you may have will be posed to our speakers at the end of this session, and you can enter them into the Q&A function here in our Zoom chat. Now, please welcome our speakers, Nelson and Albert from Adobe. Over to you guys.
Okay, thank you very much, Lit Hao. Thank you very much, Emmerich. Let me go ahead and share my screen, and I hope everyone can see my screen and myself. So a very warm welcome to all our participants today. Thank you so much for taking the time to join Lit Hao, Emmerich, Nelson, and myself here for this particular presentation that we have prepared for you. So the title of our presentation today is 3D Immersive Design and Augmented Reality Experiences. Essentially, today we are going to be talking about the immersive design, augmented reality technologies and how that could be pertinent and relevant to your industry within the AEC kind of community, and how Adobe's kind of solutions are actually have started to propagate into this particular space itself. So without further ado, let's get started. So now, when we talk about augmented reality, sometimes it gets easily confused, with different types of realities. They have physical reality, augmented virtuality, and virtual reality. So you have a whole spectrum, and this was actually coined by a guy called Milgrams, and he calls it his reality virtuality continuum. Essentially, right, when we talk about physical reality, we're talking about things in the real world and how we interact with them on a physical level. But when we talk about augmented reality, it's really about how you can take digital elements and bring them into and within the context of our real world environment. And then there's a mix of the two, right? What we like to call augmented virtuality, or some people like to call it mixed reality, right? Where you can actually take real life, elements and real life activities that are going on, but put, kind of virtual avatars on them, as you can see on screen. And last but not least, of course, there's virtual reality, where you immerse yourself or bring the real world into a immersive digital environment. And this is more the case when you talk about Oculus, when you talk about HoloLens, and where we talk about, playing games, right, within an immersive environment. So what are the users, right, behind augmented reality? And we have like different types of experiences. Now over here on screen, as you can see, one of these experiences could be really relevant to your industry, which is digital previewing, right, of digital assets before purchasing, right? Is really relevant in the e-commerce space, very relevant in the furniture design space as well. And I think this is an app that even the likes of IKEA probably has already kind of propagated and kind of produced out. But AR experiences are also, put towards different types of use cases as well. For example, narrative storytelling. You can basically have a nice short story being told from the comfort of maybe even your bedroom, right? Secondly, of course, you talk about augmented reality games, where you can play games from within the environments, all right, in your physical space. And last but not least, of course, AR is being put towards educational content, where you can have virtual 3D models. And in this case, students can learn about, for example, the inside of a retina, the eye, biology, and different things like that, even for engineering and even for onboarding, right, of mechanical kind of technologies as well for engineers. So now, augmented reality has come to the forefront because 3D technology has really advanced so greatly. Now, if you look at these two pictures over here, and the question is which photograph is real versus which is rendered. Now, it's not that easy to tell, right? I would say that the one on the right, it's kind of too perfect, right? So probably the one on the left is real, and the one on the right is probably rendered, right, in 3D, via 3D technology itself. But it's really, really hard to tell. So here is another example, more pertinent to the AEC industry, right in the comfort of your living room, which photograph is real and which is rendered, right? So over here, it's quite difficult to tell. The only difference between the two that I can tell is both are actually taken from different angles. And the actual truth of it is both are actually rendered. So it's not always easy to tell the real from the virtual, and that's where technology has taken us today. So, beyond static content, the use cases and the way in which 3D technology has been, put forth and utilized is has really concentrated into three main areas. Firstly, right, there's been this new area called virtual photography, where because in the pandemic era, it's not always possible to set up physical sets, right? Because there's of social distancing, because of kind of lockdowns. So what people have done is they have kind of started to take 3D virtual objects, texture them in a very realistic manner, composite them, right, against a real live kind of stock photograph, for example, and then render them in a realistic way. So that is virtual photography, right? There's a new thing that has just come to the forefront over the last 1, 2, 3 years. Now, the second thing, of course, is augmented reality experiences, where you can take the same, right, 3D objects and then put them within the comfort of your actual environment, and let us see how they interact with the lights within your actual space, physical space itself. And that is, augmented reality experiences. And last but not least, of course, the 3D technology has been used in product design, where, with the likes of technologies like Substance, right, Dimension, as well as, Stager, and maybe even some game engines, right? You can actually use 3D technology to iterate, right, virtually countless numbers of design iterations for a particular product. And that's where the power of 3D technology actually comes in. So 3D content is really generating new ways in how customers are interacting with brands. Now, in the AAC industry, I guess the real kind of value in this is where you may actually have countless number of textures and countless number of shaders that you like to put in your virtualized environments. But then you will also like to populate, right, your virtual environments with things like furniture, with things like plates, with glasses and kind of food, and so you can have everything done virtually, and then create a augmented reality experience by having your customers be able to walk through a virtual space like this. And that's where the power of 3D technology will come in for AEC in the use case. So when we come to the technology itself, what is Adobe's kind of role in this? Now, in Adobe itself, we have kind of two main groups of products that we like to talk about in the creative space. First of all, we have the Creative Cloud suite of products, and within the Creative Cloud suite of products, right, we have solutions like Adobe Stock, where you can actually get countless number of 3D models itself. There are about 15,000 different 3D models, stock models within Adobe Stock itself. So it could be furniture, chairs, tables, anything that you like to populate, right, the kind of virtual setups that you may have already designed in your architecture and interior design kind of process. Of course, we have flagship Photoshop, which is used for final touch-up. And then we have augmented reality solutions on the mobile device like Adobe Aero, and then staging solutions like Dimension, and of course, 3D character kind of solutions like Adobe Fuse. Now, just launched not too long ago, right, is the Substance 3D collection, where you can use, Substance Sampler, for example, to get physical photographs of surfaces and then turn them into parametric, right, 3D materials that you can then use and scale up without any limits and put them as a realistic photoreal, physically based rendered surfaces in what would be called a augmented reality kind of setup, right? You can have Stager, where you actually composite 3D objects against a realistic photograph, and have the photograph be the lighting source of the 3D object itself, so that they are rendered photorealistically. And later, you will see my colleague Nelson, right, demonstrate this. You also have, the Substance 3D assets itself. So Substance 3D assets really is almost like Adobe Stock, where you have a unlimited number of or 9,000 different materials, right, that you can actually license. And these are all physically based rendered materials itself. So when you put them into a 3D package, like maybe Unreal Engine or Unity, or even Substance Stager, it looks like photorealistically rendered, right? It looks real. And then you have a Substance Designer and Substance Painter that will allow you to customize, right, the application of the 3D materials on 3D objects even further itself, all right? So now a little talk about the Substance 3D assets itself. So Substance 3D assets, you can download ready-to-use photorealistic materials. You can see that, and then you have about quite a number of them inside here, and you basically need a license, and it comes together with the Substance 3D package. So there are about 9,000 plus parametric materials within Substance 3D assets themselves. Okay, and of this, about 2,000 plus are actually for the architectural selection itself, particularly for use in the AEC. Okay, and so how do these different solutions come together and work together in the workflow? So in a nutshell, essentially, within the Adobe 3D Immersive AR ecosystem, what happens is first you need 3D models, right? 3D models could be, of course, the furniture products themselves you get from Adobe Stock, and also those that probably you would be, creating yourselves in packages like Maya or 3D Studio Max, and you'll be building some of these models. Now, secondly, you will need material authoring. So you can use Substance Sampler, for example, Substance Designer and Substance Painter to kind of author some of these materials and then place them onto the 3D objects themselves for photorealistic rendering. Now, when it comes time to render these objects themselves, then once you have the photoreal environments, you can use Adobe Dimension or Substance Stager together in conjunction with Adobe Photoshop to kind of touch up and come up with photoreal renders, still renders of these different kind of environments themselves. And these are really for kind of development of marketing collaterals, marketing stills. But over and above that, you can also create, right, augmented reality solutions like using Adobe Aero itself, and directly from Substance Painter or Substance Designer, you can bring this and port them over directly from to Substance Adobe Aero. And then you can also from Adobe you can also get your materials and your 3D models directly from Adobe Dimension and Substance Stager directly into Adobe Aero. Okay, so without any further ado, what I'd like to do now is, in order for you to be able to see this in action, I'm going to pass this demo on to my colleague, Nelson John, who will first take you through Adobe Dimension or Substance Stager, right? And he will come and start putting 3D objects and the materials together. And then after that, he'll pass on to me and I'll show you Adobe Aero to see how some of these 3D objects can actually be ported over to an augmented reality experience. All right, so basically what happens now is I would like to move on to the, let me turn on, here we go. So I would like to move on to the augmented reality section of today's presentation. So what you're looking at actually is Adobe Aero on my iPad Pro itself. So you can see that actually I'm actually using, my actual iPad Live itself. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Adobe Aero. Now, this part is going to be a little bit interesting. So I'm taking my Adobe Aero itself, and from here, what I can now do is I can say I would like to create a new experience. So right at the bottom left-hand corner, I can tap on Create New over here. And as you can see, this is actually, you're looking at this live. There's a bit of an inception here. But from here, I can actually go in and start to look at the rest of my room. Now, what I want to do is I want Adobe Aero to be able to detect the surface, right, in my room. Now, a very good way of doing this is to put a rug or a mat so that, the surface can be easily detected. And once you have found that, all you need to do is to tap on the surface to kind of lock it in place. And now the next thing to do is to import a 3D object inside. Now, what I'm going to do is going to tap plus right over here, and I can import something from the Creative Cloud itself, right? So I'm going to open my Creative Cloud assets itself. And from here, I'm going to go inside to this particular folder. Inside here, I have something here. And you can see that over here, we do have the little chair on the top right-hand corner. It says NEL chair. Now, this is the chair that Nelson was using earlier. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to tap on it, right? And just tap on, bring it in. And once it says, okay, please tap to place the asset. So I'm going to tap over here to place the asset. And you can see that it comes in a bit small. So what I can now do is to tap on it, right? Kind of just tap on this thing itself, and then it locks in place. And I use 2 fingers itself to pinch, right, the chair to its right size over here, something like this, right? And then I can also rotate this chair so that it's actually facing us over here like this. I can use 1 finger to kind of replace and reposition this chair. And if I'm happy enough, I can just tap on it. So there we go. We have a chair right in my study room over here where I am. And from here, I can look at the different textures up close. I can look at the texture of the cloth that he placed on top. Now, the other thing I can do, of course, is to, once I select this, I can go to the bottom of that little screen. It says behavior. If I tap on the behavior icon, I can now create different types of interactive behaviors. So for example, if I wanted to see easily, right, what the chair would look like in my living room, but also be able to see all angles of it, one way in which I can do that is to tap on trigger. and I'll say I will use tap as a trigger, for example. So when I tap this chair, I would like something to happen. One of the things that you can do is to tap on action, for example, and then from here, I can say I would like it to spin, all right? Now, if I scroll over here, I can say, well, I would like it to spin for a duration of maybe like 10 seconds, for example. So I would like it to spin 360 degrees in 10 seconds, right? And then from here, you can do like ease in, ease out, how many times you want it to spin, right? Is there any delay? Is it going to infinite or not? And so I'm going to just say, you know, I'm happy with this and tap on the check mark, right? And then just close this itself. So right now, this can actually spin. So what I need to do in order to see the action itself is to go up to preview. You see on the top left-hand corner, there's edit and there's preview. If I go to preview itself, it will prepare the scene. And the moment I tap on it now, it will now do a little 360 kind of spin. You know, it will spin for a duration of 10 seconds. And then it will stop. So if I wish to see it again one more time, it's very simple. All I need to do is to tap on this, right? And it will spin one more time. Okay, so this itself is Adobe Aero itself. Now, the last thing I want to show you, of course, is once you have this, you can actually share this augmented reality experience with other, you know, people that you want to kind of evangelize this experience to. So you can tap on this little share button on the top right-hand corner over here, and it says you can share directly to Behance. You can export this as, right, a Aero experience.real, okay? You can also export this as a universal scene description. Now, this itself really is the typical format that can be read by other 3D applications such as Unreal Engine, right, and Unity as well. So Unreal Engine and Unity is typically will be used to create kind of bespoke augmented reality kind of experiences, right, where you wish to have typical customizations with those. Unity, for example, is very good for creating, you know, product pre-visualizations, for example, virtual photography. And then Unreal Engine, of course, is a game engine. So it would be perfect for creating like 3D walkthroughs and stuff like that. And everything in these kind of, you know, Adobe Aero, everything in Unreal Engine and Unity itself is going to be lit in real time, right? So that in a nutshell is what I have for Adobe Aero. Now, allow me to check in with Nelson. Nelson.
Yeah, I will be able to bring in and.
So I'll hand it back to you first.
Right.
Okay. All right. Nelson, back over to you.
Right. So I'll just show you the part in which the scene is set right now. I can just go down to File. When I say Export, I can export to Aero, the part in which he continued on. So when I say select to Aero, it will start processing that particular document. Right now it is below, has to be 50 MB and below. And if I click on export, and then I can actually dump it to a Creative Cloud folder, which he's supposed to bring it on. I can just say BeyondX. And I can save this. So that's the file that he's able to basically open up using Aero. So that's the small bit that I was not able to cover. And then we can also do something called as share 3D screen for review. If you feel that you have done something in 3D and you want to review it on a website, you can always do it. All you need to do is type in a name and create a public link, which I already just did. And I copied the link and I pasted it inside the browser. And it will just load up. And you can actually rotate this thing in 3D. There you go. You can rotate this in 3D on a website, right? So this is quite cool in terms of using web content as well. Now I'll pass it back to Albert for that last part of the small section that he still needs to cover.
Okay, thank you, Nelson. Let me just go ahead and share my screen one more time. All right, and go ahead. Now, so really, my last bit over here, I just wanted to end off today's presentation by talking a little bit about what, here are some of the different customers that have used the 3D immersive and AR ecosystem, including Substance material. So of course, right on the left side, you have the heavy users, which are those in the entertainment field. These would be the likes of the game companies like Ubisoft, Activision, Epic Games, for example, Nintendo. And essentially, they are heavy users of products like Substance. Substance being used particularly to create and design, right, endless iterations of the numerous number of environment assets that you can see in all those games. And really, actually, if you think about it, is really not much different from what the AEC industry is actually doing, because when you are trying to create a real-time rendered, physically based rendered 3D walkthrough of a space, right? Essentially, what you're doing is you're creating environment assets, and that's where I think the huge use of Substance will come in this kind of scenario, and that's why I put some of these logos over here. Of course, we have product design, for product visualization and virtual photography, the likes of some of the automotive companies, as well as the consumer brands like Nike, Adidas, and Louis Vuitton, right? And last but not least, of course, in the graphic design and virtual photography space, we have Target, IKEA, for example. One thing to note is that IKEA, if you take a look at the catalog that IKEA publishes every year, about 90% of all the products inside the catalog are all rendered virtually using 3D design and 3D objects, right? So it's not like 90% of it is basically fake. Well, I won't say fake. It looks really, really real, and it's very impressive, right? So we also have Target as one of our key customers as well, and that's where the Target is going into fashion design. It's going into retailing products where people can do virtual try-ons for clothing, for makeup, and so on and so forth. So here is just a brief overview, right, of Adobe's 3D immersive and AR forays into this particular space itself. And with that, I would like to hand it back over to our host for the panel session.
Thank you so much, Albert and Nelson, for the demonstration of that. I could just, I think it was a very insightful session. We are very tight for time, so I'll just summarize some key points very quickly. You've taken us through the possibilities and this full suite of Adobe capabilities, all the available digital elements, potential for applications in terms of augmented virtuality, VR, AR abilities, and so forth, and how brands have started to explore the use of AR and renders and all that in real space. I think that's fantastic, and I think we're just waking up and touching the surface of this potential. And you've also shown us other possible applications, such as through narrative storytelling, AR games, educational content, and so forth. I just wanted to ask, in terms of shareability and interactivity, does it allow for a lot of real-time discussions to happen using AR with the application of AR in a virtual environment? Just taking into account that all of us are under pandemic conditions and working from home and all that. How much interactivity in real time can actually be applied here? Is that possible?
I think that's definitely possible. I mean, for one, we have seen the one of the earlier slides that I showed earlier has this augmented virtuality kind of slide where you have 3 people seated around the table, and it's actually AR, right? But the characters and avatars themselves are actually, the actions are driven, and the dialogue is actually driven live by some of the hosts, right? So that itself is definitely a bespoke kind of development into this space. I think what would be really interesting is if you had someone be able to go into a 3D space and it's like a community, right? And once you go in, it's almost like playing a multiplayer MMO RPG kind of thing, where you go in and you can see other avatars as they're walking through the space. So that is definitely stuff that has been explored before, for sure. I can't really say, to what extent is Adobe's own technologies, or whether it's really on our roadmap at this point in time. I can't really say, right? But definitely we are, going deeper and deeper into this space. This is a priority space for us. I don't know, Nelson, if you have any.
Right. Yeah. The only other thing is we need to get into 5G technology. That is one of the key parts of moving from and getting into VR and making sure that we have live avatars and live gaming events on VR. It's possible, but we still need 5G, and 5G is on the road. And I think by 5G coming in, I think everything will be in place.
Great. Just one more quick question. In terms of, for those of us who are really interested, in terms of training and resources, could you just outline what is available currently? And in general, what is the experience in terms of commitment and the learning curve like for those who are, let's say, at the level of 2D or 2D graphic designers? And if they encounter a problem, is there a human on hand to assist?
I think that that's one of the ways that I want to demonstrate today, that whatever you can do, we can easily bring in, and people who are just normal designers or using Photoshop will be able to actually use Substance or Stager to bring it in, texture it, export to Aero, and then can have a good feel of it. But also to add to it that it is not from dimension alone. From Photoshop also, you can create not 3D object, but staggered images and then export to Aero. But the image, when you look at it, looks like a bit more on a 3D space, but that's what Photoshop can do. But if they are interested and they are not a 3D person, then they can use Photoshop to export to Aero as well. Albert, you want to add anything?
Yeah. So, I mean, in response to, that question, I would say that it's really a multi-layered answer. And one layer is exactly what, as Nelson has described. So the purpose in Adobe, or the main trust, right, or focus when Adobe first came out with these solutions themselves, like Adobe Dimension at the start, right, and Adobe Aero, really was to give 2D designers a kind of flat learning curve and get into the 3D kind of act very, very quickly. But that said, it does not mean that the technology or the capabilities or within the Adobe ecosphere is really limited to that level, because actually, if you want to take it really, really far, we can take it pretty far. And as you have seen with technologies like Substance itself, beyond Substance Stager, you have Substance Designer, which was one of the first few applications within the Substance family that was first introduced years back, right? And then you have now Substance Sampler and Substance Painter. So these are fairly advanced kind of applications where a little bit of 3D background would be preferred, right? So that you know how to bring in 3D objects, you know how to paint on them, you understand what are UVs and everything. But that is for the more advanced users. And then, Dimension, Stager, and Aero will be for the more kind of maybe somebody who's relatively new to the space. But definitely the Adobe kind of suite of solutions will cover the entire gamut. So that's where we have customers all the way from the large game companies. And I would say these are fairly involved and fairly advanced users, all the way through to, even most of our new customers tend to be from the retail side, where they are doing product design, and they could have a bit of 3D skills in terms of trying to design the products, right? Or even packaging companies. And then from that point on, they really find it a joy to start using Substance, because it leads them, into countless other possibilities that they never really experienced before.
Okay, thank you, Albert and Nelson. Over to Lit Hao. Lit Hao, do we have any Q&A from the audience?
Well, not really. We don't have a Q&A right now, but maybe perhaps just to close, please allow us to just pop a question. This is one of the questions that are always been burning in our minds. Now, when it comes to the interface, do you see Adobe moving into, let's say, the metaverse, which is exactly what you were talking about earlier, Albert. And I think that if I may segue into the next session, we are really talking metaverse and NFTs and all that. Do you see Adobe moving, what is your vision of moving to the metaverse? And for that matter, when it comes to augmented reality or augmented virtuality, how then do you see in terms of platforms or devices, HUDs, for example, heads-up displays, Google Glass, stuff like that? How do you see the future of the entire Adobe Creative Cloud and the Substance assets? And how do you see that moving into these two realms, as it were?
Wow, I really view that question as a user experience or UX design question. Really, I mean, if you're talking about having HoloLens and some of these devices to control and interact with 3D experiences, then really it's a matter of designing the user experience, right? And that's where from Adobe's angle, of course, UX experiences, it's something that we have also prioritized, right, as one of our key products, Adobe XD, but that's mainly for digital screens. We have not really forayed into this yet, and definitely I would say, well, I mean, never say never, but it doesn't seem to be the case where we will be going into the hardware side of things.
I see, I understand.
But maybe Nelson has something to add.
The applications, yeah.
I don't think so. Adobe has built any hardware to say to be forecasting on. If you look at Oculus Rift or any of those, I feel it's more towards how the APIs drive the senses is where the market is basically, right? Oculus is just a device to view the end product, but at the end of the day, it's all about the APIs and how you can interact with in the mixed reality world. That will play a key part. And for that, you still need to have that fast reaction and the sensors built. Right now, it's all purely API driven. If it was based on drag and drop boxes where this is where I want to put a click or a trigger into the 3D space. If it was done that way, then it will be great. But somebody has to standardize it at the end of the day if you want to have that problem. But as you know, the world is, everybody's having their own set of hardware and everybody has a different set of moving forward. But I'm sure there'll be a standard coming up soon in which Adobe will be able to contribute in the content creation part, which will be more useful, making sure that the tools are available for people to create content. And it's not only just the programmer who is able to create content.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Right.
Okay, I think we've got to leave it there. That's all that we have for today. I'd like to thank you all for joining us, our BeyondX speakers, Nelson and Albert, our audience. And our next and last session for BeyondX is coming up very shortly at 3:30 p.m. Singapore time. And as Lithao has said, it's going to focus on architecture in the metaverse. So do join us for this concluding webinar. So on behalf of my co-moderator, Lithao, we will also see you in the next cycle of BeyondX next year. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Albert. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for your
Bye.
time. Have a good rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.